Welcome to our deep dive today, where we're going to be tackling a really, really important question, how to help kids navigate their digital lives.
Yeah.
We've got some fascinating research here about how childhoods are being shaped by tech these days.
Yeah, and it's really not a simple, screen time good or, screen time bad debate. I think this research really identifies 6 different ways that kids are actually experiencing the digital world, and each of those ways comes with its own unique challenges and opportunities.
6.
Yeah.
Okay, you've officially hugged me. Let's dive in.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that we need to kind of understand about this topic?
I think the first thing is that there's really no single digital childhood experience.
Yeah.
When we look at the statistics, 1 in 3 internet users is under 20, but their experiences can vary dramatically.
1 in 3. Wow. That is a huge number of young people online.
Yeah.
You know what? Even kids who aren't online are still being affected by our data-driven world, right?
Absolutely. Think about it. Their education, healthcare, even their social lives are all being influenced by technology, whether they're directly using it or not.
That makes a lot of sense. So how does this research actually categorize these different digital experiences? You mentioned 6 profiles. I'm really curious to hear more about them.
Yeah, let's start with kind of the most extreme end of the spectrum, the digitally excluded. These are children who have absolutely no access to digital technology whatsoever.
No access at all.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine growing up in today's world completely disconnected. I mean, what does that even look like?
Well, it raises serious questions about equity and opportunity. These kids are essentially cut off from a fundamental aspect of modern life.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to participate in a conversation, but everyone else is speaking a different language.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the next profile? What comes after the digitally excluded?
So the next category is called digitally limited, and these children might have like a single shared device at home, but their access is irregular and often restricted.
Okay, so they're getting glimpses of the digital world,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't fully participate. What kind of impact does that have on their lives?
Well, think about education for a second. Imagine trying to keep up with your classmates when you can't access online resources or complete digital assignments. It puts them at a significant disadvantage.
Yeah, it's like being given a textbook with half the pages missing. You can try to learn, but you're always going to be behind.
Exactly. And then we have the digitally intermittent group. And these kids have more frequent access, but it's unreliable due to things like, poor infrastructure or limited data plans.
So they might be able to get online, but then their connection is constantly dropping out or lagging.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine trying to do research for a school project or connect with friends online when your connection keeps cutting out. It's incredibly frustrating and makes it really hard to fully engage with the digital world.
So it sounds like for these first 3 profiles that we've been talking about, access is like the main barrier. But what about the kids who do have regular access? Is their experience kind of more consistent?
Not necessarily. There's another group, we call them the digitally cautious, and these kids have regular access, but they face other limitations.
What kind of limitations are we talking about?
Well, it could be things like, parental controls or even the child's own anxieties about the online world, which, can limit their ability to really explore and learn.
So even with the technology right there at their fingertips, they're not really free to engage with it fully.
Yeah, think about like sensitive topics like, health. A child who's constantly monitored might hesitate to search for information about their own well-being, even if they have questions or concerns.
That's a really good point. It's like having a library card, but only being allowed to check out books from one section.
Yeah.
You're missing out on so much knowledge and so many experiences.
Exactly. And then we kind of move on to a profile that we see a lot in the headlines these days, the digitally consumed. These are the kids who are spending, excessive amounts of time online, potentially putting them at risk for various harms.
Right. This is the profile that often sparks those whole, screen time debates, concerns about addiction, cyberbullying, exposure to inappropriate content, all that stuff.
Yeah, and those concerns are definitely valid, but it's important to remember that this is just one profile, It doesn't represent all children who have regular access to technology.
Okay, so there's hope for a more balanced approach.
Absolutely. And that leads us to our final profile, the digitally immersed. These children are kind of seamlessly navigating the digital world. They've got strong digital literacy skills, and they're using technology in a way that actually benefits their lives.
This sounds like the ideal, right? The digitally savvy kid who can leverage tech for good while also like navigating the risks responsibly.
Yeah, you could say that, but it's also important to remember that achieving this level of, digital fluency really requires a supportive environment, good guidance, and education.
So it's not just about handing them a device. It's about equipping them with the tools and the knowledge to use it effectively and safely.
Exactly. It's about empowering them to be, critical thinkers, responsible digital citizens, and informed consumers of online content.
Okay, so how do we actually put this all into practice? How can we, as, parents, educators, and concerned adults, help kids from all these different profiles thrive in the digital world?
Well, that's where the real work begins. I think we need to move beyond these simplistic screen time debates and really adopt a more nuanced approach that's tailored to each child's, unique needs and their own circumstances.
So you're saying it's not a one-size-fits-all solution?
Definitely not. For a digitally excluded child, the priority might be, bridging that digital divide by providing access to devices and, basic digital literacy training.
Yeah, it's about making sure that every child has the opportunity to participate in the digital world, regardless of, their background or their socioeconomic status.
Exactly. And for a digitally limited child, it might be about advocating for, more affordable internet options or helping families find resources for low-cost devices.
And for the digitally intermittent child, we need to be pushing for better infrastructure and more reliable internet access in all communities.
Great. These basic access issues are really foundational. Without them, it's almost impossible to address the other challenges that we've been talking about.
So true. What about the children who do have access but face those other obstacles?
Yeah.
Like the digitally cautious group.
Well, for them, open communication and building trust is key. Parents and caregivers need to have honest conversations about online risks while also encouraging healthy exploration. Digital literacy education is also crucial here, teaching them how to evaluate information, protect their privacy, and identify things like scams.
It's about giving them the tools to navigate the digital world confidently and independently.
Exactly. And then for the digitally consumed child, we need to focus on finding, a healthier balance. This might involve using parental controls, encouraging offline activities, and having open conversations about the potential downsides of, spending too much time in front of a screen.
Right. It's not about demonizing technology, but helping them understand that it's just one part of a well-rounded life.
Exactly. And finally, for the digitally immersed child, it's about nurturing their positive habits and encouraging them to use their digital skills for good. They can be mentors and role models for other kids, showing them that it's possible to have a healthy and enriching relationship with technology.
So there's no single solution, but there are a lot of different things that we can do depending on the individual child's needs. It sounds like this research gives us a really helpful framework for thinking about these issues in a more thoughtful and effective way.
That's exactly right. This research helps us move beyond those, polarizing screen time debates and really focus on what truly matters. Empowering children to navigate the digital world safely, responsibly, and in a way that benefits their lives.
We've talked a lot about meeting kids where they are right now, but technology changes so fast. What do you think the future holds for these digital childhoods?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's hard to predict exactly how technology is going to evolve, but I think we can make some educated guesses based on, what we're already seeing.
Okay, so if we look ahead, 5, 10 years down the road, what kind of shifts do you think we might see?
Well, I think those lines between the 6 profiles that we've been talking about are going to become even more blurred. The distinctions between online and offline are already kind of fading, and that trend, I think, is only going to accelerate.
So it won't be a matter of are kids online,
Yeah.
but rather how are they engaging and what impact is it having on their lives? It becomes even more nuanced than it already is.
Exactly. And, we might even see more kind of hybrid experiences where a child moves between different levels of access and engagement depending on their context.
I can picture that. A child who's digitally immersed at school with, all the latest tech, but then goes home to a digitally limited environment, their digital world would be constantly shifting.
Right. And as technologies like AI and virtual reality become more and more sophisticated, we'll likely see entirely new ways for kids to interact with the digital world. I mean, imagine immersive learning experiences that transport them to different historical periods or allow them to, work with virtual mentors. The possibilities are really vast.
It's exciting, but also a little bit daunting. Will all children have equal opportunity to benefit from these advancements, or will the digital divide just get wider?
That's such a crucial point. Policymakers and educators really need to be proactive in ensuring that these emerging technologies are used to bridge the gap, not widen it. Equitable access and distribution are absolutely key.
So it's not just about developing the technology itself, it's about making sure that it reaches all children and that it's being used in a way that truly benefits them. And we'll need to rethink our approach to digital literacy as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Basic computer skills aren't going to cut it anymore. We need to equip children with critical thinking skills, media literacy, the ability to discern fact from fiction in an age of misinformation. They need to be savvy consumers of online content, not just passive recipients.
It's about giving them the tools to navigate the digital world safely, responsibly, and critically. But, beyond all the skills and the policies, what do you think is the most important thing that we can do to prepare kids for this digital future?
I think we just need to remember that technology is a tool. It's not a solution in itself. It can be used for good or for ill, and it's up to us to guide children towards using it in a way that benefits themselves and society as a whole.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. It feels like we've only scratched the surface of this whole topic.
It is. It's an ongoing conversation and one that we need to keep having. The future of digital childhoods is still being written, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
Well said. As we wrap up, I want to leave you, our listener, with this thought. The research that we explored today really highlights the incredible diversity of digital childhoods. But it also reminds us of the shared responsibility that we have in supporting the next generation as they navigate this increasingly digital world. We've given you a lot to think about today, but we hope you've also found some practical takeaways and a renewed sense of purpose in helping the kids in your life thrive. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.